Where are we?
We're in Abu Dhabi.
What flight is this?
2.
Did you make it, Nicholas? It's kind of dark back there.
If you're in Egypt, you're visiting the Great Pyramids of Giza. Built by Pharaoh Khufu, his son and grandson, over 4,500 years ago, they're the last of the 7 wonders of the world still standing. Seeing them in person takes your breath away. The Giza Pyramids was our first stop after waking up in Cairo. For Thanksgiving 2019, my wife Teresa, my son Nicholas, and me, Mike, traveled to Egypt to visit the country and spend the holiday with my sister Susanna and her family. We were going to jam a whole lot into 6 days. But first, the biggest thing Egypt has to offer, the pyramids.
And there's a pyramid. What? You know what I'm doing right now? I'm touching a pyramid. I'm touching a pyramid. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm touching a pyramid. And then, here's some more pyramids. There's pyramids everywhere. This is Pyramid City. How would you like to work on one of these?
Oh gosh. No.
So what do you think of this place?
It's kind of amazing. Big and vast and impressive.
So you had all this time, they were talking about this stuff in architect school, and now that you actually see Amenhotep's temple or his tomb and all that other stuff, what do you think about it?
I'm a little less cynical.
There's the pyramid, squish, 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 but you know, it actually is a pyramid. It's like the real deal. That's the thing. Tens of thousands of people to build that.
We visited a nearby temple and then the Sphinx. But now what? Mixed in amongst the crowd, it was hard to appreciate that these things were more ancient than anything we'd ever seen. So, we rode our camels back from the pyramids just before noon. And then, coming down a desert hill towards Cairo, the midday call to prayer went up. To us, it sounded as if the entire city was praying. It was a powerful reminder on our first day. We were in the Arab world for sure. We'd been advised by many to hire guides to show us around to expedite things in Egypt. In Cairo, our guide was Ekremi, a charmer and total operator who came recommended by my sister's friends. Having a guide in Egypt made a big difference, we'd found. Not only does it help with the language and cultural differences, there are plenty of things you see and get in Egypt just because you're with a local in the know. For instance, after we'd maxed out on the temples for the day, Ekremi took us to a small village outside Cairo near where he'd grown up. Here we saw a completely different kind of life, only 40 minutes from downtown, but seemingly a million miles away from Cairo. But, as relaxing as that was, it was not to last. That night we needed to catch an overnight sleeper train to head south to Luxor for even more tombs and temples.
yeah. Here's our little tiny room number 1. Sink. Here we go. Room number 2.
So,
Alright. I really didn't sleep on the train last night. I maybe slept a couple hours. This is a loud train. But it's starting to have a really nice view. Because the sun is coming up. And that's pretty cool. But we're also kind of jammed into this little space here. I think she slept more than me.
slept pretty good, other than on important stations.
Ugh.
Trundling south along the Nile, we saw amazing countryside outside our window. Once the sun was up, it was hard not to stare at the landscape rolling by.
Thank you.
Thank you.
After a 10-hour ride, we were off the train and into a minivan in Luxor, southern Egypt. Here we were in the hands of our highly capable local guide, Mahmoud, who came from a family of antiquities conservators, studied at Cairo University, and could read chiseled hieroglyphics like you and I might read a book. Our first stop, the stunning Valley of the Kings, where pharaohs 3,500 years ago dug deep tombs into a mountainside and decorated them with stunning art so they'd have a nice place to stay in the afterlife.
Wow.
So you can see the original lines in ochre, and then the correction lines in charcoal before they carved it. It's so cool.
It's like a real Raiders of the Lost Ark here.
Slice of jars. So they think this is going back to World Cup, so maybe there's...
That's what it's really like.
And then, back in the van, off to Queen Hatshepsut's temple, where crowds were huge, and it made it seem less like a temple than a Disney experience.
I honestly don't know what's more amazing, this place or just the incredible crowd of tourists.
Oh, what? Back in the van again for what was becoming an overload of incredible. An ancient worker village, some more unbelievable tombs, and an unreal temple. I don't want to seem unappreciative, but at some point you just get maxed out. There's so much incredible, so much amazing. Oh yeah, and everything's 5,000 years old. How do you even process all this?
Okay, we have finally made it to the hotel in Luxor, and it's probably one of the nicest places ever. Let's take a walk, shall we? Room number 1. Nicholas has implanted himself in front of the television. What do you think, Nicholas?
I'm just trying to find a good,
How long do you think you could stay here?
a long time.
And then Nicholas has his own private balcony.
Oh, wait, I do?
Yeah, you do.
It's
small though. Really, really small.
It's got these really nice mirrors everywhere. Also a nice bedroom. Oh my gosh. And look, it says, welcome Michael Fourcher.
Awesome.
All right, after 2 days in the desert, how does it feel to be here?
It's great. Ready to relax.
Me too.
The Nile's right over there.
Can't really see it that well, but it's there. There it is. Hey Nicholas, check out the balloons.
Yeah. Cool, right?
This time we were on the road by 7 a.m. to visit two small towns, Dendara and Abydos, to see some of the best kept temples in southern Egypt. It's worth pointing out that everywhere you go in Egypt, there's heavily armed security. On the highways, there are checkpoints every few miles. In the cities, there are military police at major corners. Egypt is a police state, and it takes security seriously. For an American used to civil liberty, it's unsettling to have so many uniformed people pointing machine guns at you everywhere you go. And then we arrived at Dendara, a massive temple built by the Greek pharaohs around 400 BC, covered with carvings and artwork. It was customary for pharaohs to add their own little bit to temples as time went by. So we got to see a rare carving of Cleopatra, ordered by the woman herself, as well as a small temple built by her lover, Mark Antony, right across the way.
It's hard to keep in mind that this is an actual place where people used to go. That, you know, this was like a town. It's pretty amazing. Pretty good.
But the real star of the show at Dendara is inside the main temple, filled with giant columns with every square inch covered with carvings and paintings.
It's the roof terrace.
Back on the road for the next temple, this time joined by a security escort. Our second stop, a temple for Pharaoh Seti I, set in the small town of Abydos.
It's possible when you're here in these temples to just get overwhelmed. You can get overloaded with so much stuff. Look at that. That is 2,500 years old. And that's not even one of the oldest things here. There's actually things that are 3,500 years old. It's amazing. And it can exhaust you.
After that, it was back in the van for a long 3-hour drive to the hotel.
So,
It's been another great, tiring day. Watch the sunset.
It's been a long day. And now that we're finally done, we're just gonna hang out by the pool. It's dawn on the Nile again. It's dawn on the Nile again. I'm just sitting here. That's what the Nile looks like. And I have to admit, it's kind of amazing.
We kicked off our last day in the south with the giant Luxor temple, again full of columns and giant atriums. Until archaeologists dug it out in the 1880s, it was covered in sand. That's why this mosque was seemingly built on top, because that's where the ground used to be.
So every day that we've been here, a guide has taken us to a restaurant, and the food has actually usually been pretty darn good. What do you think? What do you have there, Nicholas?
I have a Pepsi.
Yeah, but what's...
I have lentil soup with lime in it.
This is tomato cucumber salad, eggplant of a type I've never had before, and salted persimmons. I swear to God, they're amazing. And guava juice.
Then it was back in the van, this time to the Big Mama, Karnak Temple. Built in stages by pharaohs to prove their greatness and godliness, it goes for acres. Huge. Just huge. After all the temples, we decided to catch a sunset felucca ride on the Nile before we jumped on the overnight train back to Cairo.
So, it's dead. Wait, Mom, what are you doing? Touching it off?
And then Cairo. On our first day back, we visited Coptic churches, the city's amazing Al-Azkar Park. We got a great view of the city. But the real city was something more gritty. Cairo is defined by its traffic, intense, gridlocked, and unrelenting. Like our last time in town, our guide was accredited. I told him I wanted to try some street food, so just off Tahrir Square, we found ourselves at a genuine Cairo hole-in-the-wall named Cafeteria Pussy.
But it has a much smoother texture than most waffles I've had.
All right, there you go. That's
Very
it.
good. Very fried.
But it was Thanksgiving. This year, my brother-in-law Anton, sister Susanna, and their daughters invited us to an expat dinner of about 50 American expats. All down in cocktails, cranberry sauce, and fellowship in the middle of Cairo.
Happy Thanksgiving!
A good time was had by all.
You know where Kamara is? Where's Kamara?
For our last day in Egypt, I asked to take the subway downtown. It's neat, clean, and with frequent trains. After a brief walk in Zamalek, a nicer part of town, we caught an Uber to head to the Islamic Quarter.
Forward and back!
Are you taking a video? You
I am
are.
taking a video, yeah.
All right.
In Islamic Cairo, we were met by native Cairene and architect Heba Farouk. The Islamic Quarter is what you're imagining when you think of an old Arab city. Busy, narrow streets filled with merchants and stunning mosques. We seemed to get into all kinds of places only because Heba was with us.
And just even kind of the coolness of the house itself.
If you have a chance, get down to Islamic Cairo. It's not a tourist part of town. It's actually where people live and do stuff. There's a ton of different shops. And people just on a Friday afternoon after prayers walk around and just check things out and see what's happening. Pretty cool.
Eventually, it was time to go home, so we ordered up an Uber. It seems like Uber is everywhere.
It's worth saying. This is my happy place. I could stay here forever. I could stay here forever. Not her. Oh no, I'm just serious.
We can cancel.
This is awesome.
And then we can take them.
There's all these people. There's so much going on. It's amazing.
The traffic was terrible, so we had to wait a while. But then a car showed up, and all 8 of us piled in for our last ride home.
All right, everybody, say hi.
That night, we flew back to Chicago, but Cairo stayed with us. Egypt is a super complex, incredible place that defies some expectations and exceeds others. We can't wait to go back.